And today all eyes are on the Supreme Court. The topmost court is all set to hear a plea against the demolition drive in Jahangirpuri at 11:30 this morning. The drive comes after communal clashes took place in the same area during the Shobha Yatra procession on April 16th. Jamiat-e-Ulema-e-Hind has moved a plea in the Supreme Court and called the demolition drive as unconstitutional and said an opportunity should be given to residents. Today, the Supreme Court will also be hearing another plea related to the bulldozer drive in the states of Uttar Pradesh, Gujarat and Madhya Pradesh. The plea has stated that properties in these states are being razed in a malified manner and demolition can't be done until the property is found to be illegal. Meanwhile, from January to April 19th, 4 anti-encroachment drives have been conducted in Jahangirpuri alone. So the Delhi civic body says that there is no need to give any advance notice on a property that's built on a government land. Blame game politics has also played out over this drive. The opposition has called the demolition drive illegal. The BJP has hit back, saying don't communalize the matter and that rioters' homes must be demolished to teach them a lesson.
The BJP is adopting the same methods of what Israel, an apartheid country, does to its own citizens. We go around the world and say that we are a functional democracy. Is this the way you behave with your citizens? Without even giving them a notice? Under what law do you decide that that a person is a stone pelter, and under what law you can come to a conclusion that he is convicted? Why do you have police? Why do we have the courts? Why do we have the judges? Then close all of them.
अगर बुलडोज़र से ही चलना है काम तो फिर ऐसा चलेगा. एक तो आपने ज़मीनें संभाली हुई हैं, उसमें एक्टिविटीज़ ऐसी करते हैं, तो सिर्फ मैसेज है. बाकी सारी कॉलोनी को, सब लोगों को मैं श्योरिटी दिलाता हूँ. माननीय गृह मंत्री जी ने ये कहा है कि कोई मासूम फंसे ना, गुनाहगार बचे ना.
इस देश में महंगाई पर बुलडोज़र चलाया जाना चाहिए, बेरोजगारी पर बुलडोज़र चलाया जाना चाहिए, धर्मांधता पर बुलडोज़र चलाया जाना चाहिए, रूढ़िवादिता पर बुलडोज़र चलाया जाना चाहिए. परंतु उन सब को छोड़कर बुलडोज़र सत्ताधारी दल द्वारा केवल और केवल इंसानियत पर चलाया जा रहा है. ये देश का दुर्भाग्य है कि 21वीं सदी के सपनों का भारत, प्रगतिशील और सुदृढ़ भारत, आज केवल और केवल बुलडोज़र की राजनीति पर लाकर सीमित कर दिया है भारतीय जनता पार्टी की संकीर्ण विचारधारा ने.
And let's get you details of what played out yesterday when we saw that crackdown with 9 bulldozers, 9 machines rolling out onto the streets of Jahangirpuri. And in a matter of hours, shops were razed in the riot-hit area. Here's how all of the drama unfolded in Jahangirpuri on a day that the Supreme Court had to actually make phone calls to civic officials to implement its stay order.
Dread, division and demolition in the national capital. At least 9 MCD bulldozers descended on Jahangirpuri, raising alleged illegal constructions on their way. Security was beefed up in Jahangirpuri before the demolition drive began. North MCD sought over 400 police personnel. The security forces held a flag march in the area to keep troublemongers at bay. Amid simmering tension, locals began collecting their belongings, trying to save them from destruction.
पुलिस का बड़ा फोकस्ड रोल है लॉ एंड ऑर्डर मेंटेन करने का, और हम लोग असिस्ट कर रहे हैं जो भी एजेंसीज हैं, जैसे इस केस में एमसीडी का जो भी इंक्रोचमेंट रिमूवल प्रोग्राम होगा उसको हम लॉ एंड ऑर्डर पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से असिस्ट करेंगे. हमारा रोल लॉ एंड ऑर्डर मेंटेन करना और उसी के लिए एडिक्वेट फोर्स प्रोवाइड करना.
It was around 9:50 when India Today accessed the first images of bulldozers heading towards Jahangirpuri. The demolition against illegal constructions began minutes later. At least 9 bulldozers tore down makeshift structures, illegal shanties, shops and buildings in the locality, many of them allegedly on public land.
This is the visuals on our screen. This is a tea stall that was there on the corner of Kushal Chowk. This is the same location where we saw Sonu Chikna firing that bullet from, after which he was arrested.
While demolition drive was underway, the Jamiat Ulema-e-Hind moved Supreme Court and obtained an order for immediate status quo.
I'm here because the Supreme Court has given an order for status quo. I have conveyed that to the senior police official. He has assured me no bulldozer, nothing is going to be raised as of now, and that's why we are appealing to the people of Jahangirpuri, please maintain peace.
But the civic body continued bulldozing for at least 1.5 hours, with officials on ground saying the Supreme Court order is yet to reach them, despite an assurance by the mayor.
बिल्कुल ये बंद हो गया। जेसीबी अब बंद हो गए? बिल्कुल बंद हो गए, सब वापस जा रहे हैं। सारे जेसीबी वापस ले जा रहे हैं? बिल्कुल वापस जा रहे हैं। कितने जेसीबी आए थे? 9 जेसीबी आए थे, आप यहाँ से देख सकते हैं, सब वापस जा रहे हैं।
The demolition drive then reached the spot where the riots had broken out. Encroachment around the mosque was brought down, while the mosque itself remained untouched.
This particular JCB machine came to the mosque, Jahangirpuri Mosque, and they are carrying out demolition activity on the shops, the extension of the shops, which has been built inside the Jahangirpuri Mosque.
The big question, was the bulldozer run a legitimate civic action or message to rioters in Jahangirpuri? With Pooja Shali, Anjana Om Kashyap, Kumar Kunal, Shreya Chatterjee and Arvind Ojha in Jahangirpuri, Bureau Report, India Today.
Delhi is witnessing an alarming rise in COVID cases. In the national capital, 1,009 cases and 1 death has been reported in the last 24 hours alone. The positivity rate stands now at 5.7%. Amid an uptick in COVID cases, the Delhi government has made masks mandatory again. Violating this rule, the person will be fined 500 rupees. The Delhi Disaster Management Authority has also decided not to shut schools, but to come up with a separate standard operating procedure in the coming days. Now, hospitalization trends will also be closely tracked and watched for the next fortnight. The decision comes after Lieutenant Governor Anil Baijal chaired a crucial meet on Wednesday to review the COVID situation in the national capital and check the preparedness. It's not just Delhi, but across the country, you're seeing another sharp spike in daily COVID cases. The national capital has been hit with a surge of cases, the positivity rate over 5%. But the most important question is if this is the onset of the 4th wave. India Today gets you a panel of experts to break down for you what a massive surge in COVID cases actually means now. Sneha Mordani gets you this report on why the COVID surge isn't actually a major concern right now for you to get worried.
A 500% increase in COVID cases in Delhi city streamed headlines. 27% of hospitalizations in Delhi due to COVID are that of children, streamed another. A child has died in a school in Noida. Read another piece of fake news on a microblogging site. But what really is the truth behind this data? These numbers, the news doing the rounds about cases surging, positivity rate increasing, R value increasing. Is this the onset of the 4th wave? Is there a reason to worry? Are hospitalizations going to increase? Is there a new variant around the corner? India Today has spoken to the best epidemiologists and doctors to get the truth for you. These doctors and epidemiologists have been telling us that right now there is no reason to worry, there is no reason to panic. There are 5 reasons why they tell us it's good to be cautious, but we should not be panicking. Cases are increasing. Our value, our reproduction value has crossed 1 in India. That is the truth, but not completely unexpected. Let's talk about the reasons why you should not be worried. Experts say getting frantic about increased transmission is of no use.
What we need to remember that SARS-CoV-2 will stay with humanity for long, for months and years ahead. In that backdrop, some of the rise and fall in the cases or COVID-19 cases is very likely. So we should not get concerned or alerted with every single rise or fall in the cases. What we should do in the time ahead, that we should focus upon protecting the vulnerable.
Coronavirus is part of our life like any other virus, like influenza virus, dengue virus, adenovirus. So we have to live with it. There will be an increase in number of cases as we do unmasking, but you don't have to panic. If you are vaccinated, you have taken the booster dose, you don't need to panic. What you need to do is take a check on the count, people around you who are sick. If you are sick, you have to stay home, get yourself tested. We know all the basic precautions. You need to do masking when you are moving out in a crowded place or if you are taking a public transport.
Reason number 2. Children are at no risk or at very little risk of developing severe disease.
There is no evidence that virus is spreading due to school opening. So school should continue to be open for in-person classes. Yes, what is important that high-risk individuals need to protect themselves more diligently.
Reason number 3 why you should not be panicking. There is no new variant of concern yet.
There is no news of a remarkably different variant yet. Until and unless such a news comes, I do not see any reason for panic at this point.
Experience from South Africa and Europe has also shown that Omicron and its subvariants have not caused a devastation like Delta. And therefore, our experience is also likely to be relatively milder than in the past.
Reason number 4, there is no serious illness or deaths. We also have vaccines.
It is becoming less invasive, not attacking the lungs, but sticking mainly in the throat and the nose, or even possibly having mutated to a less virulent form. Alternately, this could be our acquired immunity from prior infection or vaccines protecting us from serious illness. Either way, we are in a relatively safer zone than we were during the Delta wave of 2021. Our health systems are much better prepared now with equipment and facilities. We are geared up with home care facilities, also for emergency transport. Our hospitals are now better equipped with oxygen.
Reason number 5 why you should not be worrying. Experts believe that unless there is a new variant of concern detected, this may actually not lead to a 4th wave.
I believe that we need not panic at all, but we must still exercise caution. It is possible that the pandemic is now reaching a new phase of endemicity, but even then, we cannot take the virus for granted and adopt very reckless behaviors.
From the experience in China and many other countries, we can confidently say that zero COVID is not a viable strategy anymore. With the virus being around, it is very likely that cases would rise and fall. So we should not be worried or concerned with the slight increase in cases in any setting. That is a natural process.
Experts say prudence above panic, common sense above knee-jerk reactions is desirable. In New Delhi, Sneha Mordani for India Today.
And let's move on to another story that we'll be tracking closely this morning. UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson is on a 2-day visit to India. Prime Minister Johnson's visit comes at a crucial time when war is, of course, underway in Ukraine. Talks about the war and the conflict will be on the agenda. Boris Johnson will spend the first day of his tour in Prime Minister Modi's home state. So he's going to be visiting Gujarat and becomes the first British Prime Minister to do so. After his visit to Gujarat, Boris will then head to Delhi to meet with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The arrival of UK's Prime Minister is important in terms of business, particularly free trade, energy sector and defence. Prime Minister Johnson will hold bilateral consultations with Prime Minister Narendra Modi on April 22nd, that's tomorrow. The Prime Ministers will review the implementation of Roadmap 2030 and set their vision to further intensify cooperation across the full spectrum of bilateral ties. The UK Prime Minister will also be meeting with External Affairs Minister S. Jahangirpuri on the second day of his tour when he is in the national capital. Last year, Boris Johnson was set to visit India. He had to cancel his trip twice because of the COVID pandemic. And we've been getting you all the details here on India Today about the war, the ongoing war in Ukraine. One of the world's most respected Russia watchers, Harvard professor Ravi Abdulal, in a special conversation with India Today, asserted that a tactical nuclear strike is very much a possibility. His words come just a day after Russia's foreign minister, in his only interview so far amid this war, played down the nuclear threat that's emanated consistently from Moscow.
Tactical nuclear strike is a possibility. Words that will echo through war rooms across the world. Not just random analysis, but the words of one of the world's most respected Russia watchers.
Engage with the world.
Harvard professor Ravi Abdulal, director of Davis Center for Russian and Eurasian Studies. An academic whose views on the world's biggest story is one of the most sought after.
Is not about Russia versus Ukraine, but about Russia versus the West. And for that logic, we need to think about what are the ways in which Russia and NATO could come into direct conflict that could lead to a nuclear exchange between the great powers, as opposed to a single tactical nuclear strike in Ukraine.
Professor Abdulal's world-exclusive interaction with India Today adds ominous urgency to the aura of nuclear threat surrounding Russia and Ukraine. His words come just a day after Russia's foreign minister, in his only interview so far in the war, played down the nuclear threat that has emanated consistently from Moscow.
The Russian military has these hypersonic missiles, which are good at evading missile defense systems. It has thermobaric weapons, the so-called vacuum bombs. As far as we know from the outside, the Russian military has used one of each, probably to demonstrate what they can do, but have not yet escalated to the widespread use of these really terrifying weapons, much less the possibility of a tactical nuclear strike on the territory of Ukraine.
There could be no winners in a nuclear war, and therefore nuclear war must never be launched.
Obviously,
Professor Abdulal is the second top-tier American academic to highlight the nuclear threat emerging from Russia. Last month, Princeton University's Dr. Zia Mia echoed the fear.
This is part of the script of the nuclear age. So nuclear weapon states say this because they can, because they have nuclear weapons.
Away from the nuclear threat, Professor Abdulal also sees Ukraine's current weapon levels as only enough to keep its head above water.
The Ukrainian military, and indeed the Ukrainian civilians who have been waging this counteroffensive against the Russians, have perhaps been armed enough to achieve a kind of stalemate, though not enough to win the war.
More ominously, the Harvard professor predicts the longer the stalemate, the more destructive things could get, with newer weapons entering the combat mix.
But the longer the stalemate lasts, the more likely there will be escalation. on the Russian side, using weapons that they have mostly not yet used in ways that will be difficult for the rest of us to watch and horrible for the Ukrainians to endure.
With only some indicators on where the war is headed and what the endgame is, the Harvard guru makes a pronouncement that provides shape to the next steps. That there's little chance of the war winding down soon.
President Putin has gambled his historical legacy on this war, which means that there is no backing down. There will be no end to this war until the Russian president feels that he can narrate some sort of achievement, both militarily and politically, from the war.
On India Today, the most sought-after academic and strategic minds provide their views first, allowing us and you, the viewer, navigate this emerging conflict. With Rahul Kawal in Boston, Bureau Report, India Today.